most companies will tell you they're using artificial intelligence. And if you look at the surface, it's convincing. There are tools installed, people are running prompts. Someone in leadership gave a talk about transformation. The quarterly report mentions artificial intelligence somewhere. There's probably a slide deck. But here's what I keep seeing when I actually get inside these organizations. The gap between what they claim and what they've actually built is enormous, and it's not getting smaller. If anything, it's getting wider, because the tools are getting easier to adopt at a surface level, which makes it easier to confuse activity with progress. That gap is what this video is about. My name is Ronald, and I'm an artificial intelligence clone intentionally. Artificial intelligence is already a core part of how we work at Data Wonder, where we build artificial intelligence automation systems and voice agents for real businesses. This channel exists because I kept having the same conversations with clients and never saw anyone covering the reality of what artificial intelligence adoption actually looks like on the inside. Not the press releases, the actual situation. If you want that kind of grounded, no-hype perspective on artificial intelligence in business, subscribe. That's all this channel does. Now, back to the gap. Here's how artificial intelligence adoption typically starts inside a company. Someone usually in leadership, sometimes a department head, reads something, goes to a conference, or gets sold something. They come back with energy. They announce that the company is going to start using artificial intelligence. Sometimes there's a budget, sometimes there isn't. Either way, things start moving. And on paper, things are moving quickly. Tools get purchased, licenses get activated, a few people start experimenting. ChatGPT prompts are shared in Slack. Someone builds a small automation. There's a demo, it goes well. Leadership is satisfied. This is the moment where most companies declare victory. And this is exactly where the problem starts. What they've done is adopt artificial intelligence in the same way someone joins a gym in January. The membership is real. The good intentions are real. The first week is even impressive. But 3 months later, almost nothing has changed about the underlying habits. The tools are there. The usage is not. Have you seen this pattern in your own organization? Someone brings in a new platform, there's a burst of excitement, and then 6 months later, maybe 3 people are actually using it in any meaningful way. That's not a coincidence. That's a structural problem that most companies never stop to diagnose. Here's what's actually happening underneath the surface. When companies adopt artificial intelligence tools without changing how work is designed around those tools, they don't get artificial intelligence-powered workflows. They get artificial intelligence-adjacent workflows. The tool sits in the corner and gets used occasionally for things that don't really matter by people who never fully understood how it was supposed to help them in the first place. I've been inside insurance companies where there's an artificial intelligence tool licensed for the entire claims team, and the actual usage is 3 people using it to draft emails. That's it. The complex, repetitive intake processes that drive the cost of that department are completely untouched. The data entry, the document processing, the routine client follow-up, all still manual, all still consuming hours every week that could be automated. The tool is there. The transformation is not. And here's where it gets interesting, because this is the part that nobody talks about openly. The reason the transformation doesn't happen isn't usually resistance. It's not that people hate the tool. It's not that leadership doesn't care. The reason it doesn't happen is that nobody in the organization has a clear enough understanding of what the tool could actually do to make a meaningful decision about how to deploy it. That's the real problem. Not the technology, the education gap. And the gap works in both directions. The people at the top don't understand the operational detail. The people doing the work don't understand what's technically possible. And the space in between, where the actually transformative decisions need to get made, is usually empty. But that's not even the deepest layer. I'll get to that in a moment. What this looks like from the outside is a company that looks like it's adopting artificial intelligence. What it looks like from the inside is a company that bought tools, ran a few experiments, didn't see transformative results, and quietly stopped pushing. If you've worked through an artificial intelligence rollout that went this way, you know exactly what this feels like. And here's the thing that most artificial intelligence content completely ignores. This pattern has a second-order effect that's genuinely dangerous for companies in regulated industries. This is the bridge, because we've covered the surface problem, the illusion of adoption. But what I want you to understand is what happens after that illusion settles in. What happens to the people who believe it? When leadership believes the company is successfully adopting artificial intelligence because the metrics say so, because people are using the tools, because nobody is complaining, they stop asking hard questions. They don't push deeper. They don't invest in real process redesign. They don't hire for the skills that would actually make a difference. They've satisfied themselves that artificial intelligence is being handled. Meanwhile, the actual competitive gap between that company and companies doing this properly is widening every quarter. And in regulated industries, insurance, accounting, healthcare, there's another dimension to this that makes it worse. These are industries where the repetitive, rule-based work that artificial intelligence is best at is also the most operationally critical work. Compliance documentation, routine client communication, appointment scheduling, data reconciliation. This isn't glamorous work, but it's the work that drives cost and determines margin. When that work stays manual, while a company congratulates itself for having an artificial intelligence strategy, they're not standing still. They're falling behind while believing they're moving forward. That combination is the most dangerous place to be. Now here's the second-order effect I promised. This is the part that very few people see until it's already happened. When a company goes through a cycle of artificial intelligence adoption that doesn't deliver, when the tools get bought and the results don't come, there's an organizational memory that forms around that experience. And that memory says, we tried artificial intelligence. It didn't really work for us. That belief becomes a blocker, not just for the next tool, for the entire category. Leadership becomes skeptical. Employees become resistant. And the company enters a second cycle of underinvestment, not because artificial intelligence doesn't work for them, but because they never actually tried it in the first place. They tried the surface version. They mistook activity for adoption. The companies I see get this right are not doing anything technically complicated. They're making different decisions earlier in the process. They're identifying the specific work that costs the most time, not the interesting work, the boring work. They're building automation around that work first, before anything else. They're measuring real outcomes, hours saved, error rates reduced, cost per transaction, and they're making sure someone actually owns the outcome, not the tool, the outcome. That ownership piece is the one most companies skip. They assign someone to manage the tool. They don't assign someone to be responsible for what the tool is supposed to change. And without that accountability, the tool becomes part of the furniture. What looks like artificial intelligence adoption from the outside is often a collection of tools sitting on top of unchanged processes, owned by nobody, delivering nothing. The companies that understand this, really understand it, are the ones that will operate with significantly less overhead, greater consistency, and measurably lower cost per unit of work over the next few years. Not because they bought better tools, because they made better decisions about what to do with them. Does the situation I described today, the gap between what's claimed and what's actually built, does that sound familiar inside your own company? I'd genuinely like to know if what I described today is happening inside your organization, the tool purchases without real adoption, the missing ownership, the boring work that's still manual, and you want to actually fix it. You can book a free call with me. The link is right below this video.